Good morning or good afternoon or good night, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another session of Canvas Live. Canvas Live sessions are presented by Canvas community members or Instructure employees to help Canvas users improve and enhance their teaching and learning with Canvas. Today we continue in our Office 365 LTI series. This is the last in our series for this session, for this LTI. My name is B-Rai. I'm a community manager here at Instructure, and with me is Nick Demas. He's a trainer at Instructure. Let's see if his mic is on today. Good morning, Nick.
I'm so slow on that. Good morning, everybody.
All right, so today we'll talk about the 365 LTI and how it functions with Google, your course, Canvas course with collaborations tool. As we start every session, we just go over the LTI and how to install it and where you can find it in case this is your first time in the session. The Office 365 LTI basically allows your users to leverage more Microsoft tools and functionalities within Canvas instead of going to a different tab and doing things in the Microsoft area and then coming back to Canvas. So less toggling between the two platforms. And there's some automated permissioning there that happens with the LTI too. So that's kind of convenient. To install the Office 365 LTI, you'd have to add it through EduApps. You configure the LTI in your course, and then you could authorize access as well through your course in Canvas. So just a quick overview, you would go into your course settings, click on the tab that says Apps, do a search for Microsoft, which is where you would find the Office 365 application there. You would click on it. It will prompt you to add the app by providing a consumer key and a shared secret code. And in order to get that, you'd have to open another tab and type in eduappcenter.com, and it would do a search for Microsoft Office 365 there. When you hit that, there's a little button at the bottom that says Here. When you click the Here link, it will prompt you to generate an LTI key and secret. So you press the button, you get the codes, take those codes, copy and paste, and head on over back to Canvas and put those codes back into that pop-up. And then, of course, at some point when you are accessing your Office Microsoft 365, you will be prompted in Canvas to authorize. And so you accept, and then you will be able to access all those documents in your Microsoft Office 365. Today we're going to talk about collaborations. It's an app. Collaborations, unlike what we talked about cloud assignments a few weeks ago, collaborations is an opportunity to collaborate with multiple users in one document, whether it's a PowerPoint, Word, or an Excel document. Whereas when we talked about cloud assignments a few weeks ago, the cloud assignments allows one document to be templatized or created for one student. So you would do one assignment that would be copied to multiple students. So each would have their own. And the way it would work with collaborations, one of the things that we'll talk about is the with and without the LTI, and then Nick will talk about with the LTI. But without the LTI, if you wanted to share something that was in Microsoft 365, you would have to go to the actual document there and then do some shared settings. With the current collaboration, you are able to share right from the collaborations side of things by clicking on Microsoft Office and selecting the type of document you want to share right through the collaborations interface. So in the next slide, I'll show kind of how you would do it without the LTI. Before, you would have to set up your share permissions via Office 365, and you would then share those resources. So here I am on a Word document. And I would have to click that share button in the upper right-hand corner and then determine how I want to share it. Do I want to invite people to the document to edit the document? They have to have a Microsoft account, of course. Or do I want to get a share link and then share it out to my students? Things like that. But with the LTI, this makes it very easy to share because these permissions and these share settings are automatically included in the LTI. So all you would really have to do is go to the collaborations and then set it up from that side without ever having to leave and go into Microsoft Office. So I'll hand it over to Nick, and he'll give us a demonstration on how that collaboration tool works within your course. Nick?
All right, and yes, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Birai. It's always fun to work through collaborations. I think collaborations are a bit of an unsung area as we look at Canvas overall, because there's really a lot more that we can do in collaborations than create a shared document. And then when we're working with this situation with Office 365, we're actually bringing a lot more into the collaborative space, meaning we're able to not just use a doc, but we're also able to use PowerPoints as well as spreadsheets in this. So I want you to start thinking about how can you use this a little bit differently. And if that's not working for you, then I've jotted down a list of different ideas of things you can do in a collaborative space. And we might just kind of hit a few of those ideas as we go to it. But first, let's get into that collaborations area. The collaborations is going to be part of your course navigation menu. If you decide that you want to use collaborations in your class, please make sure that you are making this so that it's present in settings. A lot of people will forget that they've turned it off because they haven't used it in ages, they haven't seen any need to use it, or maybe there's this aversion to using a Google Doc as a 365 school. So let's get into this collaboration space here. Again, making sure that we have this turned on, and then we'll see our standard setup for it. You know, the cool thing about this is we've had the slides. We've talked about the old setup is the Google Docs. Well, you're going to be able to see the different configurations as you jump into collaborations. So the first thing we need to do as 365 users is when we start this collaboration, we need to activate this pull-down menu and jump down to our Microsoft Office 365. Now, just disclaimer, I do have Google Apps because I've been involved with the Google Apps LTI series. Here we are, Office 365. We can select that option, and then we're going to watch the blue wheel spin for just a second as we, don't let me down, blue wheel. There it is. We'll watch the blue wheel spin as we change the interface so that we're into something a little bit more conducive to Office 365. But you'll notice that the change really isn't significantly different on the screen from what you saw with Google. So if you have used Google in the past, you're not doing some advanced work here that should be scaring you about building collaborations. No, you're really just replicating what you've already done. If you're doing this for the first time, it's pretty easy to work through. Let's go through this. We're going to start out with a Word document, but I do want to point out that yes, we do have Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. The old system was just a Google Doc. Let's start with the Word doc, though. So what are we going to use this collaboration for? Well, if we're going after the low-hanging fruit, this is going to be an area where we might have classroom notes. We're having all the students work together, create notes for the class, share ideas, and work through this space for it. But we could go much beyond that, couldn't we? We could talk about this as a space for classroom projects where the classroom works together to create these projects. We can use this for group essays. If we want students to turn in a group essay, this might provide a collaborative space where an essay could occur. We can even use it for, on the professional development side of things, this might be the place where we start working with other coworkers, maybe co-teachers, to build outcomes for our courses so that we have something in that space. It might be something that we bring in as an administrator to create some of those shared resources, like those outcomes that we can then place at the admin level. If that doesn't apply to you, don't worry about it. If it does, cool. Love the admin workspace. Now let's talk a little bit about a document type. Let's we want a good naming convention here. So we're going to call this one, we will say history essay outline. And this is, I'm going to set this one up as a group project. I'm going to just do it for one of my groups, not both of my groups. So history project, history essay outline, and include some instructions. Now, if you've been attending these sessions, if you've attended trainings that I've led or some of my coworkers have led, we've always said to use good naming conventions. This is going to help you out so that you can better understand what you're looking at. It helps with the categorization of materials and so on. So use good naming conventions throughout Canvas. Now I can assign this to specific people so that I can watch the overall progress as we work through this. So maybe this is just an assignment that I want to see, or I want to see the workflow for, say, Abraham Lincoln. I could select Abraham Lincoln, and I could be his collaborator, but I could work on the workflow as he creates history type essay to turn in. In my former life as the director of the Utah History Fair, Utah's National History Day program, this would have been a phenomenal tool to have used to work with students as we prepared for the national competition, to be able to work and bounce off ideas with each other. Kind of sad that I didn't get to do it. But let's go jump into a group. I'm going to set this up for the group, and I'm just going to go with this one group. Don't ask me why I have a vein for a name, but we're just going to go with it. And I'm going to save this collaboration with that group. Blue wheel spins. And then I'm going to jump into this essay if I want to, but I could also edit the essay if I wanted to in that area. And then wait for things to spin again. All right, let's keep it saved. We didn't change anything. All right, and I could even use the space to delete this collaboration if I wanted to. Let me jump into this collaboration. It's going to push me over into the 365 realm where I can take a look at this and maybe give some additional directions for this group of students. Let's call this one brainstorming session. As a group, jot down your ideas about all right, so maybe that's the first piece of this. And then we can get out of there. That's part of it. Those students who are going to jump into that collaboration will be able to see that. And I'll be able to go back in and maybe highlight some ideas, share some ideas, and so on if I want to bring things out or add notes to it and use some of that Office 365 or Word document functionality. Let's start a new collaboration. We're going to go through the same process, get rid of Google Docs where we're only using a Google Doc, and then we're going to go to 365. And this time, let's do let's wait for the spinning blue wheel. Go with Excel, and we're going to call this Group History Project Source Spreadsheet. I'm always afraid to spell. And we want to have good details. I'm going to assign this one to the same group. This is going to be their spreadsheet so that they can document, and we're going to build it out so that they can document their progress as they're adding, say, different components to the spreadsheets. All right, you're going to see right here why, first reason why this might be important to have a good naming convention. So you know that as you look at these current collaborations, you know which one you're jumping into. You can see some limitations here. I didn't say doc. I don't know that this is a doc. So it kind of makes sense if I go in and make sure that I have some good naming conventions in place. Let me jump into this group history project. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to, for this, because it's a history project, I'm going to set up maybe a system that's going to mirror what they're going to see if they're going to be documenting or using Travian style for the documentation of these different pieces. I'm going to skip some steps here, but we can go through the process. And I might even build some others or build different components, different pages in here to augment different styles. So that if I wanted to do something aside from journals, do the journal entry here. Maybe I want to do something that's going to include books and other sources. I'm leaving this notes area here on purpose because I want a good collaborative note space for students to be able to work through their notes on these different pieces. Might work through wraparound text, etc., to make this happen. All right, we don't have to limit this just to my, my very narrow vision of what history should look like and how history collaboration should look like. Think about this in terms of a spreadsheet, all the different things that you could do with a spreadsheet, whether you're in an accounting class or whether you are working through math problems using spreadsheets, or whether you're just trying to track information. B-Rai and I kind of like to talk about caloric intake for whatever reason. B-Rai, I don't know why we got on that path, but we've done so. And so maybe that's something we're doing, is to compare and contrast our different groups to see what sort of caloric intake that they have as part of a class. Maybe it's a nutrition class or a health class. So again, tons of different ideas that we can bring into this. And the last thing we'll bring in is our, as a collaboration, we're going to start a new one and use our PowerPoint. So let's go through the same process. Start a new collaboration. And this one I'm not going to jump into as much, because maybe this is going to be the end result, is this PowerPoint presentation. And good naming conventions, be detailed. And spell detail the same time twice. And same group. Going to save this and start that new collaboration for that group. And I don't know why the error occurred, but it did. Let's see if it's good this time. If not, we'll move on. All right. So we can move on. Now, another thing that we can talk about too is that we don't have to be limited to the collaborations in this area. Students in their groups will be able to build collaborations through their workspace. So if I were to go into my people area for my course, where I've already built these groups, my students, I'm going to go to my groups up here. Yeah, medical group. That was an idea that didn't make it much beyond this, but within this group space, the students can start their own collaborations and work together on these documents. They can start their own group space. So if we're building stuff around group assignments, this might be a place where they can collaborate on these different group assignments. So we can view collaborations two ways. We can use it as a shared resource, a shared idea, or a working together, group together idea in workspace, or we can enhance it just a little bit more and create assignments, kind of our typical file upload assignments through this area. Not our cloud assignments, not using Office 365 as an external tool, but building those assignments that are going to be brought in as file uploads that are going to showcase the end result of students' hard work. So those are just a couple means of working through Office 365's integration with Canvas in order to better leverage this group or workspace. I really think that if you look at this and try to develop some ideas around group assignments or even just group note-taking, that you're going to build some pieces of value for your own classroom in order to bring in additional student collaboration. So with that, though, I'm going to turn it back over to B-Rai, and she can share a little different additional information.
Thanks, Nick. So we wanted to kind of touch on this OneNote integration. Now, I wanted to make a comment that OneNote is not part of the Office 365 LTI, but we know that OneNote is part of the suite, Microsoft Suite, and so it warrants mentioning that they have a plugin that works in conjunction or with Canvas. And so we aren't going to demo that here, but we do want to bring it up, and we do have other resources, both you can find online from Microsoft and also in our community on how this integration works. But technically, OneNote, or the class notebooks, they are a personal workspace for students, or anybody really, but it can be leveraged as a content library for activities, handouts, lessons, and things like that. So if you are a faculty member or a teacher, or your school that leverages Microsoft and are using OneNote, here's how that integration would look like using the plugin. So of course you can always, or in the past, you could always share it with people manually or get the share link. That's something that you could do. But Microsoft has created that plugin that allows the access into your Canvas course from the Microsoft end. And so once you get that plugin and you sync up your Canvas course with Microsoft or with the class notebook, you'll have some additional options. Up in the top, you could see that that integration allows you to share whatever you've created in your class notebook, whether they are library information and other resources, handouts, materials, lessons, and things like that, and you could share that with you within Canvas. So if you click to the next one, next slide, you can see that with that plugin, it allows you to create an assignment from the Microsoft side, from the class notebook side. And then once you create that assignment will actually show up in Canvas. So effectively, it's just the plugin works from pushing content into your Canvas course. And from there, again, it's another opportunity for you to kind of review the work in OneNote, where again, this plugin allows you to sort of enter grades to within Notebook, and then it pushes that information. So it's a different sort of integration. It's sort of a way to push the stuff that you're doing in OneNote and into Canvas, either into the assignments or into the gradebook. So with that, I'm going to turn it over back to Nick, where he'll just give us some overall 365 LTI tips. And then we'll link to some resources, not just for this session and the LTI stuff, but we'll also link to some resources on the OneNote side, because we do have some stuff in the community that already address this, even though it's not part of the LTI series specifically.
Thanks, Birai. So yeah, just a couple tips, and we're going to start a little bit broader in these tips and then get just a little bit more specific as we go down. First of all, if you installed Office 365 in your instance, say within a course, and then somebody added it at the admin level, you're going to be seeing two of everything. So we recommend that you delete the course level piece and then work out of the piece that was added by the admin. Now, throughout when we've worked through these different courses, and if you missed one of the previous courses, we talked about adding Google Docs and whatnot into our content pages or via external tool. It worked out a little bit better if you wanted to see an embedded document to work through the external tool option rather than going by a link that was showing up in through the rich content editor through a content page. So I recommend right now using the external tool. You heard me say this during my little spiel about different documents and Excel spreadsheets while I was talking about collaborations. So I encourage you that when you are building your collaborations to be really good and specific when you are building out your naming conventions or whatever naming conventions you use. Try to be specific enough that you can know what you're talking about. You notice in collaborations specifically that when you're looking at those collaborations that I placed, that they both have the same icon. I'm not going to know the difference between the two unless I understand the title, as well as maybe include a little clue about what that's going to be: spreadsheet, PowerPoint, or document. And then it's important to, from this point forward, to carry forward the idea that cloud assignments, which we talked about a few weeks ago, are different than what you're going to see in collaborations. Cloud assignments are where you're creating worksheets or shared materials, and it's something that you assign through your external tool in an assignment once, and everybody gets a copy. They can work on that copy. It beats sharing and using unique names in order to access those files and so on, in order to bring back. I mean, so problematic to me that I'm just forgetting all the steps there. So let's make sure that you have that mental separation between your cloud assignment and what you're going to be doing with collaborations. You can still have students turn in collaborations as assignments, but do not use the external tool option. Instead, focus on using the file upload option so that your students and your student groups can turn in those collaborations.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Those are some great tips, and I think that as we get more and more familiar with leveraging the LTI, I think we'll come across some other best practices as well. I just wanted to point out that this was a 4 sort of episode series, if you want to say. And all of the videos will be available immediately. Actually, most of them are available, and then this one will be available in a few minutes. Definitely take a look at these, bundle them, share them with your faculty. Feel free to comment, add on to it. And if you're interested in doing any follow-up demos with us, we're happy to collaborate with you, and we can kind of dive into the different tools further with you. We also had previous Canvas Live quick demos from other members of the community. Feel free to check out those resources as well. Like I said, the OneNote class notebook functionality has already been covered in the community, so we didn't want to repeat something that's already been done really well. In general, we want you to continue to be involved. There are some other interesting series coming up in the Canvas Live space. So feel free to go to live.canvaslms.com and make sure you're following that space, so anytime a new event gets posted, you are alerted of it. Feel free to join the Canvas Live user group. Like I said earlier, if you're interested in doing some deep dives and some demos, go into the Canvas Live user group and ask if there's anybody who wants to collaborate with you, or reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. What are the next steps? We'll help you get your sort of demo or presentation into the Canvas Live calendar. And then hang out in the Canvas Live chat rooms. These are real Canvas users kind of in the community that sort of hang out there. And if you have a question, that's kind of a real-time chat is the space there for that. I'll look into, let's see if we have any questions. We had a question from Patty earlier about how we get that in OneNote plugin to work. And so I created a link there to the actual resource. So if you are interested in making that OneNote plugin work, feel free to check out the link that I posted there, and I'll post that on the events page too. Another question from Diane. I missed the first part, but in Google, kids need access to Google. In Office 365, do kids need an account as well, like this example, or just a teacher? And yes, they do. This LTI really functions well when you are a Google school and or a Microsoft school, where everyone has already an account. And so this integration just makes it really easy to share and collaborate and things like that. If you aren't a Google school or a Microsoft school, obviously it's sort of you would have the student make sure that they have that their own account, either have them created or they already have it. So it's a little bit more challenging, but this is more of a make it easy for an enterprise that has it for everyone. Yeah, if your students don't have it, then the sharing of the resources and the collaborations just has to be done differently. It doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just means that you have to sort of set up the integration, not integration, but set up the sharing and things like that just a little bit differently. Any other questions? Feel free to post them in the chat. Well, we really appreciate you being here. For those of you who've been with us for the entire series, thank you for hanging in there with us. Just sort of to close out, that all of this these integrations are constantly evolving and getting better and better. So like you, we're also learning as we go. And like anything in Canvas, it's always a sort of a moving target. So everything continues to evolve and change, and we're always there kind of along the way trying to stay up to date. So thank you for your participation. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out through the event page for this session. And we hope to see you again in a future Canvas Live. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nick. Have a great day.